Hey everybody, and welcome back to another rendition of what you should be watching with me, Brad Fitzpatrick, and my ever so lovely co-host, Zach Washburn. Say hi, Zach.
Hi, Zach.
Today is Father's Day. We decided to do it on today because yesterday there was a really huge storm which threw out my computer and all the power and everything else within a 20-mile radius. So, so we're a little behind on schedule, but today we're going to be doing villains, our favorite villains in movies. These are guys that we're going to talk lots about because there has already been discussion between me and Zach, and we're hopefully going to touch on lots of things. My idea of the villain is the antagonist of the movie. Doesn't matter if they're right or wrong; they are the antagonist. So that's what makes them the villain. But we're going to touch more on that while we discuss because Zach may have other ideas. Isn't that right, Zach?
Of course.
Of course. All right, guys. Well, let's just jump right in here then, and get started with your number five, Zach. What is your number five favorite villain?
I will say this topic, before I begin, is very important to me. I love villains. I always have. Even when I was a little kid, I always rooted for the villain, watching Disney movies. Because a movie is only as good or bad, as it were, as your villain. So if you don't have a great villain, I think your movie's going to fall flat.
I will agree with that.
Yeah.
Very much so.
So jumping in, number five, I picked Biff Tannen from Back to the Future.
Ooh.
He's not the type of villain I usually like,
Hmm.
but he just plays the greatest bully slash asshole, in all forms. His Biff, his Griff, his Mad Dog, Tannen. They all were great. Great actor, who played him.
Oh yeah.
And
You
he
know,
just is the quintessential bully, of those old '80s films that were just, that were great.
he's actually a comedian.
Yes, and I've seen
Oh,
some of his stand-up.
it's so great.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
so
he's really
great.
funny.
He's actually been on this last season of DC Legends of Tomorrow.
Really, what did he play?
He played one of the main characters' father, who is like a general in the military that's head of the Time Bureau.
Okay,
Yeah. It's very like they wrote his character really, really well, and they made. Well, that's the greatest thing about the DC Legends of Tomorrow is that they know exactly who they are. And they made lots and lots of jokes about time travel and Back to the Future, and even called him Biff at one point in time as
that's
a
great.
joke. Yeah, it's fantastic.
That's cool.
Like I think it was they were walking someplace in a different timeline, and somebody's like, "Hey, Biff," and he goes, "That's not my name."
That's
Just a
funny.
yeah, it's fantastic. It's a great show. But you're right. Like he really did such a great iconic job on that character. Which like I said, if you watch his stand up, he talks about it. He's like
Yes.
I'm not that guy.
Yeah,
I'm
please. I'm not the rapist.
yeah, I'm just who that's who a guy played. But he
And
like
he
if
also, but speaking of that, and they've talked about this before, in documentaries and stuff, and Back to the Future about his character. You kind of forget about that.
yeah.
He does that character in such a way. You're like, and then he becomes this lovable kind of loser that has the auto fix it shop at the end where they're all friends. It's like, wait a minute, didn't he sexually assault your mom and it's like, but they just kind of, wave that past like, oh, that's just Biff, but
But I mean, if
I
you,
don't
if
know.
you
I
if you
think that
take in
show's great acting.
consideration that like sort of story arc for him in particular, it's supposed to represent that, like things change.
Right.
You could be like the villain, um, and just end up being something different in the end as you grow older. Time changes all things, even in
True.
a time travel movie,
Right. Actually, especially in a time travel movie.
especially in a time travel movie.
Yes.
Good choice, though. Good choice for number five. That's a really good way to jump right in here to get a very good villain.
Thank you.
Very good. So what's your
Now,
number
I
two?
will say he is probably the most different of all my villains. Most of my villains are pretty much the same. They're that debonair type. They're usually always English. I love English
Right.
villains, their accent.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so going into number four, I picked Lord Voldemort from the Harry Potter.
Actually, that was on my original list as well to throw
Sorry.
him in there. No, don't be sorry. I mean, that just goes to
Yeah.
show how influential Ralph Fiennes is.
Ralph
Like,
Fiennes, yeah,
oh,
amazing. Yeah, did amazing.
like so good. And I'll give you a little bit of a spoiler. He's the villain in another movie that's on my list that's not going to be on yours.
Okay.
So, but please, Lord Voldemort, talk about like such an iconic like character that really wasn't even fully revealed like as him until the later parts of the movie, but
Oh yeah,
everybody
you don't
knew he
really see
was.
the full form of him until like the fourth film.
Yeah, but he
Yeah,
like so like overarching in his character, you
right.
know.
That basically these movies revolve around him.
Yeah.
It's kind of like in the Star Wars films. They talk about Luke Skywalker and stuff, but they're really about Anakin.
Hmm.
And Darth Vader. They really center around the mystique and nostalgia and backstory of the villain.
Well, I mean, hasn't he come out specifically to say that those movies are about Anakin, that he was the balancer of the Force?
Right.
So I mean, even all the stuff that happens afterwards is because of Anakin.
Yeah.
So, I mean, good. I mean, and really, like Ralph Fiennes, I like talk about a fine actor.
He's a great actor.
Like
Yeah.
just absolutely great in pretty much every role that he's played. Um, but as Voldemort, I don't. He brings something to the character which is I don't know. Like he really brings the character from the books to life
Absolutely.
in a great way. Specifically if you read the books. I mean,
Yeah.
oh,
And the makeup was
oh
great.
yes.
Give him that snake-like face. And
Mm-hmm. How do you feel? You've seen um, the new. Um,
Fantastic Beasts.
correct. Yes,
Yeah.
that's
I
the.
haven't seen the Crimes of Grindelwald yet, but
Okay, so you don't know Johnny Depp as Grindelwald
I did see him at the
at
last
the
of the first
very
one,
end.
of course.
Okay, and
But yeah,
I was gonna ask you about that. Is Colin Farrell or in your book from that one on your list?
no,
Okay, well then good. What do you feel like? Do you think that Ralph Fiennes as Voldemort is better than Colin Farrell as Grindelwald?
yes,
It's very like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I'll agree with you there.
yeah,
I'll agree with you there. I
no,
mean,
definitely.
like even though
And
Colin
Colin, and
Farrell,
it's not even fair to say that because Colin Farrell did a good job, but he's not even really the character.
yeah, but I mean, but he just still does a great job of hiding the fact though that
True.
even though he played Grindelwald, just wasn't Grindelwald.
Right.
Spoiler alert, guys, if you didn't know.
Whoops.
But yeah, like I'll agree. Like I didn't think that I don't think the villains in the Fantastic Beasts is on par with honestly any of the villains in the Harry Potter series.
No, I agree.
So it's a good choice though. Your 4 and 5 are really keeping my hopes up for good villains from you, Zach.
Thank you.
So, but what about your number 3?
Number three is going to be a little bit of an unusual pick, maybe. It's from Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit. These stories had such great villains on their own.
Oh yeah,
You know, Sauron and Sauron, of course, and they had great ones. But my favorite, I think, out of all of them, is Smaug.
yeah. I was gonna say the same thing, honestly.
Yeah, um, one of the best representations of a dragon I've ever seen on film, and just beautifully done. The CGI was great, and Benedict Cumberbatch,
Oh
he did amazing.
yeah, very very like
Yeah, my
amazing.
wife and I will still pop that in every once in a while, just to see the last 45 minutes or an hour of that movie when he comes in it. We don't even bother watching the rest of the film
Yeah.
because yeah, he delivers just the best line at the end. I'm fire, I am death. I just love that line. What a great villain line.
He's been on like after he made the movie, like he did his little talk show circuits or whatever, and like
Yeah.
he like really jumped into that role, you know, and like
And you've
like
seen him. I've seen him do
oh,
that too. Yeah.
and it's like and it's
Of
still
course, of course, they used a little bit of, you know, audio tricks to make his voice deeper and stuff, but he
right.
still was pretty close. I
Like
mean, you
and it
can
still
tell.
it still gives you the goosebumps when you hear him
Yeah.
say it, even though you're like, oh well, it's just a regular man, not a dragon, but you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm a
Now,
little.
I know since you read the books, can you tell me, is that line in the books or is that an original line in the movie? Do you know?
You know how long ago I read that book to know every single line?
Yeah, but that's a pretty pivotal line. I
I
didn't
mean,
know.
it is a pretty pivotal line, yes, but I
Yeah.
mean, still, that's like, what, 25 years
Right.
since the last time I actually read
If
it?
anyone out there knows if that, I'd like to know that. Is that line in the book?
Do you know what the saddest part is? You know who I know offhand who would know?
No.
Stephen Colbert.
Oh, right. Yeah, he was. Well, he was in it with his little. Did you see his little cameo?
Uh-huh.
You know that?
He's like one of the biggest Lord of the
Gerald Tolkien
Rings.
fans.
Yeah, that's just out there. Like he's memorized everything,
Yeah.
including the Silmarillion, and you're just like, oh.
Right.
That's like, have you?
Nobody
seen,
likes that.
Right. It's the strawberry milks of milks.
Right.
But you've seen the Tolkien trailer, right? The movie's not out yet, I don't think, but it looks
I
really
haven't seen the
good.
trailer yet.
But it's not about the books; it's about him. So
Right. I want to see it. Yeah.
so do I. But I mean, good choice for number 3. Smaug was definitely one of the better like dragon villains in any ever.
Definitely. Yeah. Best dragon I've ever seen.
So what about your number 2?
My number 2, got to have a Star Trek villain on there. We could do an episode of Star Trek villains.
Yeah, we could.
Itself, but the greatest of all, Khan.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that. Like even though like I loved both iterations of Khan, okay, new
Yeah.
and old school. I really can't pick who I like better though.
Oh, come on, Brad.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I really can't.
There's no question.
I
I'm
look-
not even going to add. I mean, Benedict Cumberbatch was great and all, but I didn't really like how they did that.
Well, he was more somber as Khan. Like he was really sort of just, and that's what I liked about it. It was almost like a calm rage that was in his.
I know, but
his Khan.
what they did in that movie was integrate the old episode with the movie, and they tried to do it all in one thing.
Yeah.
And the vengeance factor wasn't there. Like the whole thing about Khan and the Wrath of Khan was his revenge, his vengeance, which is a great motivator for a good villain.
I mean, yeah.
And it like memorizing all of Moby Dick and having all those great lines from Melville is just. I mean, he delivered them so well, and there's no question for me that he was the best. He was the best Khan. And plus, he was he was in the original episode, so I was glad to get to see him again. It was awesome.
What's his name? I can't remember what his name is.
I was hoping you wouldn't ask and put me on the spot.
You just brought out the DVD. You'd think you would know it.
Yeah, but his name's not
Ricardo Montalban.
Yeah,
right?
Ricardo Montalban.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm sure there's a lot of Trekkies out there wanting to slap me in the face right now, but sometimes a name like that just leaves your head. Sorry.
It's okay. I got it in the end. But I mean, it's good number 2. I mean, still, I agree with you. Ricardo Montalban as Khan is still iconic a villain as ever.
Yeah.
But personal preference.
The new Star Trek, it just seemed rushed. They were just trying to put too much into that one movie, and I don't know. They could have done it in 2 movies. It could have been a 2-parter.
I mean, could have, but then more than likely, if they did 2-parter, people would have lost momentum.
I don't think so.
Kind of like with the 3rd Star Trek movie.
That's the truth. Yeah.
Because like by the time we got to that 3rd Star Trek movie, people were like, "Oh, they made another one."
Oh, great.
You see, so like if they had made that into a 2-parter, it would have been. People would have been like, "Oh, well, I'm not interested in these characters anymore." Specifically after Chekhov died.
Yeah.
So
sad.
It is. But good choice for number 2. Like I'll concede that Ricardo Montalban is one of the greatest villains of all time, as Khan. So,
no question for me.
okay. What about your number one though? You've got a great list up until now, so your number one has got to floor me here. Let's see what you got.
I don't know. You may be surprised. I don't. Maybe not. I've mentioned this movie before. It's one of my great all-time fantasies. But Queen Bavmorda from
Ah,
Lilith, my
okay.
all-time favorite villain. She was just so badass. I love magic villains. Any
Yes.
type of sorcery, would love that. And Jean Marsh,
Oh,
she was just a
fantastic.
great
Oh my
actress.
gosh.
Yeah.
And like to think like most like villains are like cold-hearted men, right?
Yes.
Oh, and she like I think that was the first like female villain.
You don't get a lot of the female villains in
Yeah.
roles, and she was just nailed it out of the park.
I mean, like really top three male villains. If we wanted to go right there, she would be probably my number two. And my number one, though, on the other hand, would be what's her name from Harry Potter? You know what I'm talking
Oh,
about?
Umbridge.
Yes, Umbridge. Umbridge was a great
Yeah,
female villain.
I'm glad you reminded me about that. I might have to. Yeah, she might be an honorable mention for me at
So,
least.
yeah. And then number three, Cruella Deville,
Glenn Close or the animated?
the animated.
Yeah,
Don't get me wrong, Glenn Close is amazing,
yeah.
but
Like we said, Disney villains has to be their completely own. I think in their own category.
right.
Because I would have put, I probably would have added some Disney villains on here doing that, but Disney villains have to be their own.
Yeah, Mike, because
Thing.
they're all different. But the sad part is, if we do a Disney villains, we all know which ones they would be.
Do we? Think you know my villains?
Okay, but good choice for number one though. Bad Morta is such a great villain. Just that fight scene at the end is probably one of my favorite magical fight scenes of all time.
It is my favorite. It was done so well. The only thing I wish they could have done it longer.
Yeah,
I think that maybe people would have got tired of it. They can only do so many spells to each other, but
right.
yeah,
Like, and see, the sad part is like that's closer to a wizard's duel than Merlin.
yeah, right.
Call back right there. Good choice.
A couple of honorable mentions.
Okay.
Um, I love Judge Doom from Roger Rabbit.
Oh yes, Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah,
Mwah.
he
Mwah.
was great. Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah, really liked him. Okay, I was going to put the next two actually on my list, and I started thinking about their characters. Okay, and you and I talked before we started rolling about what actually makes a villain. And Brad said, "Well, it's going to be the antagonist. Whatever their motives are, the antagonist in the film is going to be your villain because that's, I guess, that's the way they're written and that's the way people see them.
Correct.
However, I don't really consider them would be a true villain unless their motives are just really evil. You see what I'm saying? That's how I like. I was going to put Darth Vader on my list. He is AFI's top villain of all time.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that because he turns good at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And in my opinion, a true villain is never going to turn good at the end. And but this one I even liked more. It's going to be Magneto from X-Men.
Which X-Men though?
Both. I like both of them. I like Ian McKellen and Michael Fassbender. I think they both did. Just the character of Magneto altogether in those movies.
Right.
I don't think he is necessarily an evil person. He's a very complicated character in the fact that he was against. He becomes what he hates.
Yes.
If you think about it, because he started out in the Jewish concentration camps and was labeled and had the numbers put on him, and he feels that humans were doing that, but then he turns around and he does the same thing to mankind
Yep.
by acting like a Hitler type figure.
Oh yes.
So, yeah, but you really feel for him, especially in the old films, or the newer films. Seeing what happened to his family and things like that. So if you really have, I also think if you really sympathize with a villain too much, it takes away from their villain. But the character of Magneto is so complex and so well done. I have to put him as an honorable mention because I love that character.
Right. And both are such great, iconic actors to play that role. Um, that uh, I don't know, like it's hard not to uh, like feel for them. I mean, both of them play it so well. Like you understand their motive um, for doing what they're doing from the very beginning to the very end. So it's hard not to be like, oh, yeah, I can definitely see why you're in this state.
Right.
Okay, so I can definitely see that. So, I mean, good honorable mentions there too. Like I wouldn't have thought. Like I really thought about Darth Vader, but I think I'm in the same boat as you. I don't think Darth Vader is the villain. If we had to say somebody was the villain, it would be the Emperor.
Emperor. Yeah.
I mean, in reality,
Yeah. Exactly.
because really, he's not. You know. But all right, so that was a good top five.
Thank you.
We've got a couple of surprises in there for me. Good honorable mentions. Very, very well done. Um, so mine's going to be a little different. Okay. Um, so like some of them you may understand, some of them you won't. But let's just jump right into these. And I'm going to leave out some of these that I don't have a lot of named mainstream movies, I guess, because I didn't want to be like too over appealing, like like Jason. Yeah, like there aren't any slashers, no slasher villains.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. I'm with you there.
All right, good. Okay, so my number five, as I said before, is Ralph Fiennes in the movie In Bruges.
Never seen it.
In Bruges is a hitman movie with Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson. Okay, it came out 2008. Fantastic movie. Basically, Ralph Fiennes is a hitman boss who
Okay.
posts a hit on a priest for the hitman Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson. And what happens is, like, after the hit, Colin Farrell's character and Brendan Gleeson are in Bruges to get away because something goes wrong in the hit, and you don't know what it is.
Okay.
And basically, like, Ralph Fiennes is coming to kill Colin Farrell's character because of it. Great
Gotcha.
movie though, so fantastic, so like almost mesmerizing, because I mean, not only do you have such three iconic characters as Colin Farrell, Ralph Fiennes, and Brendan Gleeson, but they mesh so well with the surrounding areas that, like, the story, the town itself that they're in becomes part of the story, and it's so great. Like, you haven't seen it, you should see it.
Sounds good.
Probably one of my favorite movies about hitmen. So, like, that's just me. It's stuck with me ever since I watched it the first time, and every time I watch it afterwards, it still has the same sort of, like, oh, like, it's very endearing towards the end.
Right.
And I don't want to spoil it since you haven't seen it, and it like to
So it's
tell
like a
you,
surprise ending.
not really like surprise, but you find out what happens in the original hit that
Okay.
makes everything go sideways,
Gotcha.
and you're like, oh,
So
that
whatever went wrong is kind of like the mystery.
yes, pretty much. And once you figure that out, because they're trying to hide it, they're like, because it's something that's pretty big. But yeah, like, he's one of my favorite of all time.
He's great.
So Ralph Fiennes, again, just perfect, great job as villains. But moving on to my number 4. Okay, my number 4 is we've talked about this movie before, and it's so fascinating that this one person, even though he isn't really the main antagonist, but he is the main antagonist of this movie. Like he changes the entire course of the movie for the limited amount of time that he's in it.
Right.
Okay, Hannibal Lecter.
Oh yeah.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
yes, he's not like the main antagonist because Buffalo Bill is, but like he steals the movie
Oh, definitely.
immediately, and he becomes like the center bone of that entire movie, and in my eyes would become the main villain because he knows.
Well, I have something to add to that though.
Please.
Another one of AFI's top 10 villains of all time. Now, he definitely is an antagonist of the film. I don't see Hannibal Lecter as a true villain. First of all, he has a mental illness,
Well, are you and see that's
and
very
I don't see Hannibal Lecter as being evil. Also, because he has some sort of heart and feeling, especially when it comes to Clarice.
yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can
Because
get
I
to
actually
that.
thought about adding Hannibal, and I was like, well, is he really a villain? I mean, yes. Okay, they're writing like, oh my God, he eats people, of course. He kills people. But, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I'll agree with you there. Like I do agree with you there. And in your
So
sense,
in my book, how
yeah,
I would categorize villains,
yeah,
I still wouldn't put Hannibal Lecter as a true villain.
right. Okay, I'll concede to your thought process. In your
Yeah,
sense, he
great
would be a
pick.
true villain. Yeah,
I mean, great pick. Yes, everyone loves Hannibal. Everyone knows him as a villain.
yes,
I just wouldn't put him in my list.
yeah. Understandably so. But he is one of mine. So my number 3 though. My number 3, surprisingly enough, this actor like really surprised me at being a villain. But whenever you finally like get down to the nitty gritty of it, like exploded with like, oh my God, yes, this guy is evil, completely evil. But Leonardo DiCaprio in
Django?
yep, Django Unchained. It
Yeah,
was right on the tip of my tongue. I just couldn't get it out, even though I was thinking about it.
he
But
did
yes,
really good.
Leonardo DiCaprio in Django Unchained was just phenomenal as a
Yeah,
villain. Just like almost jaw droppingly like, oh, like
he's
Jack,
bad.
like
Yeah, right.
and he just like transforms the entire movie. You
Yeah,
know, like that's a movie he should have gotten an Oscar for.
agreed.
Ugh, because oh man, so good, so good. Like every time I go back and watch that movie, I'm like this man deserves more than what he's ever been given in life.
Oh, I agree with that. Yeah,
I knew from the very beginning how great of an actor he was from What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
I knew it from Critters 3.
I knew it when he was born. I was
I mean, as soon as I saw him in Critters 3, I said, this guy's going to be a big star.
yeah, this kid's gonna die on a raft somewhere.
Yeah.
This guy's gonna be eaten by a bear sometime.
Yeah.
But like I really like if you haven't seen that movie, Django Unchained is fantastic, and Leonardo DiCaprio nails it in the end. So does
Great movie.
Samuel Jackson. Samuel Jackson, like really, like his role is completely different than he's ever played before,
It
and
is.
just masterful. Like I
They all
honestly,
do great. I
yeah,
mean,
I honestly think that everybody in that movie, every single actor in that movie, is just
yeah.
outwardly raised the bar on anything they've done before.
I can't think of any Tarantino movie where his actors just didn't give everything they had. It was just amazing.
Oh, I mean, very, very true, and I can't wait for his new one to come out. Once
Well, me
Upon a
too.
Time in Hollywood. Looks fantastic.
Yep.
Looks so great. So that was my number 3. Now, my number 2, like I really, really like this actor. Okay?
Yeah.
Like, absolutely like this actor. Like, he, in my book, has not done anything wrong in anything that he's played.
Okay.
Okay? And I don't know if you've seen, but it's also another Quentin Tarantino movie.
No,
Okay?
I've seen it.
And you've seen it. So
Yeah.
you know Inglourious Bastards.
Yo, yeah.
Hans Landa, played by Christoph Waltz. That
Yeah.
man is an acting god to me right now.
He really is good, and I liked him. I liked him in Django Unchained, like you just mentioned.
Right, but he's not the villain in Django Unchained.
He's not the villain, but his character was it's so different too.
Mhm.
But yeah, just from that very first scene and
Right, and Inglourious,
him drinking the milk. That's just, oh man, and you know some shit's about to go down.
oh my gosh, like every single scene that he's in Inglourious Bastards, he steals the movie. Every single one. Just the way he presents himself, the grandiose acting. He knows like what he's doing is right because he makes it right. And this is his God-given right.
Yeah.
You know? Like, oh man. You know, I know it's kind of bad of me to put two, Tarantino movies like back to back, but those villains are not mainstream villains that everybody knows about, but they are just glorious in their nature by the actors who played by them.
Tarantino has some great villains. He does.
Very, very good villains. So on to my number one, which is I'm surprised that it's not on your list, but we have talked about your love-hate relationship with DC. Okay. My number one.
I know what you're going to say, and I thought, but I couldn't figure out which one. I know what you're going to say.
You do know what I'm going to say, right?
Yeah.
Heath Ledger.
Yeah. That's the one you picked?
Yeah, that's the one I picked.
See, I would have to pick Mark Hamill's, and then I thought, well, that doesn't seem right putting an animated one in there. But
right.
I loved Heath Ledger, Jack Nicholson, Mark Hamill's version. I love them all, but for different reasons. They bring so many different things to each Joker.
I agree, but in movies though, Heath Ledger nails the Joker he's a different version of Joker that we're not normally used to, but he is the complete psychopath, which is like, as you see those memes that are put up on on the internet that shows all the different Jokers and how they're like different aspects, and how yes, Mark Hamill is the quintessential Joker of all time. Right. There is no debate. Like hands down, there's absolutely no debate. But when we go into live action movies, Heath Ledger is just, if you didn't know that he was supposed to be the Joker, like if we took this movie completely out of context and he was playing the same character but it wasn't the Joker, you couldn't say that he wasn't one of the greatest villains played of all time.
I agree. He did amazing. Yeah.
Oh, I'm just like, I love that movie so much. I know it gets a lot of notoriety, but as a villain, he changed like the mainstream of of comic book villains. There has not been another comic book villain that has reached that peak in live action to me. Like, don't get me wrong, like Bronson doing Thanos, specifically in the last couple of movies, is great. But again, like, would he really be a hero in a villain in your sense? Because he had a grand ideal to help everyone.
No, I agree with that. Thanos would definitely be a villain.
Okay, so since you had some honorable mentions,
yes,
I'm going to bring in some of my honorable mentions as well. Okay, now since I didn't want to add these two things because these are two TV series villains that I wanted to add. Okay. So have you seen the Sherlock TV series, Zach, with Benedict Cumberbatch?
With Benedict Cumberbatch, no.
You should if you ever can. It's a great TV series. But the guy that got to play James Moriarty in the TV series, Andrew Scott, is how Moriarty should have been played in every single iteration of Moriarty ever to date.
So he's really good, huh?
Fantastic.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a show that's on my radar. I do want to see it.
Now, don't get me wrong. Jared Harris, who played it in the movies alongside Robert Downey Jr., does a good job, but he's not Moriarty in my books. Andrew Scott is fantastic as Moriarty. And one other person, which I know we don't talk a lot about Doctor Who. A lot. I'm a big Doctor Who fan.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's one overarching villain throughout most of Doctor Who is the stand behind villain, and that villain is the Master.
Okay.
Okay? The Master, played by John Sim, is so fantastic. Like, so fantastic. To the point to where he has a series of episodes that is just based around a beat.
A beat.
Yeah, a beat. It's just that's it. And he's like literally talking about how like this is the only thing I hear in my head. These are the drums of war. And literally, and it like explodes everywhere for me. And like I feel like you would have to really watch the episodes with him as the Master to fully realize like this is a mastermind.
Right. Now, is throughout the series, is the Master someone you see right off, or does he kind of do behind the scenes stuff at first?
It kind of does one of these.
Okay.
Okay, because you have to know about Doctor Who to know who the Master is. Yeah. You know, the Master. Yeah. There's basically like you have the Doctor, and then on the flip side you have the Master.
So he's his opposite.
Yes. That's, kind of what it's meant to be throughout the entire, overarching story. Like, the Doctor's here to help. He does everything he can. He's very selfless until it comes to certain things, while the Master is completely selfish. He's like, he wants everything his way, and he'll destroy everything that he can to get it.
Yeah.
Okay. One last honorable mention.
Well, I have some added too. If you're one last for you.
Okay.
I didn't know we were doing TV villains because I got to.
Sorry. I mean, yeah. Hans Gruber.
Oh yeah, great.
Hans Gruber. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have to say any more than that. What is your TV villain then for honorable mention?
Jerry, the greatest TV villain of all time.
Yeah.
I didn't know we were going to do that, or he would have been my number one.
And that's why they're not on my list. They're honorable mentions.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, great honorable mentions though, and a great list.
Yeah.
I like the list.
Well, fantastic. Good villains.
Yeah.
And hopefully this coming year we'll have some even greater villains that we can look up to, which I highly doubt it. But we can still hope that some of them will be good. But all right, Zach, we're going to end this video.
Great episode.
Here.
I like the topic. I like our discussion.
Yeah, me too. I always like our discussions, though. Always.
Yep.
Too bad like some days we can't do it because of the fact of work. Work is terrible on me right now with the heat. I'm literally inside of a box that goes from 100 degrees to 170.
Ugh.
Yeah. I mean, I've lost 30 pounds. So.
Congratulations.
Yeah. All right, Zach, do you have anything you would like to add before the end of the video?
Yeah, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. And remember to support your arts, because without art, the world would be even suckier than it is.
And it's pretty bad at the moment, so. All right, guys, until next time, always be kind to each other. And we'll see you in the next video.